Kendrick Lamar, I got one thing to say to you.
Oh boy, here we go.
You need to watch Degrassi Next Generation because you're going to get so much stuff to talk about. About
sure. Okay. Yeah. What's up?
The Reddit app right now, which is just inherently always an annoyance to use.
Sure. Yeah. I
must,
not great.
And we have to. But now there's a bug where it just has a notification for messages.
Oh, I don't like that. And then sometimes it's like just subreddit updates.
No. It's a bug also where it just won't go away.
Oh.
And it has made me so angry because I am a person
I'm pulling it up right now
who loathes a notification. Hate them, don't want to see them, turn them off on everything, not interested in seeing anything that's telling me I have this many things to do. Got enough of that in my life. So now every time I click it every time I go into the app. Almost every time, because it's just a reflex. When I see a little red one, I click.
I see.
So if you're trying to like fish me or something, that's what I would recommend making a notification. And I know you try those, but those ones don't work. Got to do better than that.
Yeah.
So this is the DMGT podcast. I just had to get that off my chest because it's been really bugging me, and this is really the only place where I feel like it should be talked about. Not like as if I don't feel like other spaces are safe. I just honestly think it's pretty lame.
That is a minutia of your tech experience and social media and tech experience, because that's basically the only social media app you use.
That is more or less the only one. And I will say the reason why I'm not using most of the other social media apps, this is going to be a fun "you're an old man" situation.
Yeah.
But it's because, darn it, you barely even see the people you follow.
Good. Yeah.
Like
correct.
At this point,
correct.
How is it social media? It's parasocial media almost exclusively now.
Yeah, it's just media.
Because like if you like scroll through an Instagram feed, your feed, you're like, oh, okay, wait, that's one person I know, and then you're like, who is this?
What's all this other shit? Yeah.
Worst one is, have you lately logged into a Facebook?
No.
It's as if it's like it's like the phone book. It's as if the phone book just started to be your feed, where it's just random ass businesses, like local-ish maybe, but also it's like, we'll kill all your bugs. It's random, just what look to be normal people's posts, and they're like, you should follow this person. You're like, this is just some guy. I don't know who that is. And it's like, it's not like they're famous or anything. You like look at it and you're like, okay. And then it's like, hey, do you want to become alt-right? Or is that what you're looking for? Because I know everyone wants it on the internet, especially here. And then it's like, by that point, you're just like, wait, what was I doing? Oh yeah. I have to like respond to something for a company. Like I only had to go to Facebook to go into a different thing. Like
it's why they made Messenger its own app so long ago, right? Like kind of. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, but you're Danny and I'm Spencer.
Yes,
and honestly, we restarted the podcast already once.
Yep.
You're welcome
I'm
for
sure,
that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't tell.
Imagine what.
Just a few more minutes of that. It's all right. Spencer, how was Waxahachie at the Salt Shed? We talked about that a little bit before we started recording, but that's a good question for.
It's a good one. Waxahachie, as always, awesome. I mean, Waxahachie doesn't really disappoint live. I mean, it's just the whole band, because Waxahachie is really creatively one person, but is a band when touring. She never screws up a note for an entire set.
That's
Like that's
nuts.
really
That's
like every
nuts.
time I've seen Waxahachie play, it's like, oh, so you just so oh, okay, that's why all of your music sounds so amazing when you listen to it on anything. Like, but like her recorded music is so good because they're just like, all right, yeah, so we just like set it up and I don't know, you just do it once and it's probably pretty close to what we're releasing. Like she's that gifted. So seeing it live is always awesome.
Yeah.
Really great venue. Except I spilled almost an entire thing of whiskey that I had just bought because
Oh, no.
I was prepping to grab a piece of pizza that was coming towards me. And then I overcompensated by being like, I got to juggle these cups.
Ooh.
I didn't need to. And I just dumped it basically. So that was
bummer.
Pretty stone cold sober at that point too. It's just it's a tough one.
Yikes. On 420 of all days?
Yeah, I mean, like,
My
you're
goodness.
just at a concert. You're not going to be crazy.
Yeah,
not at the beginning.
Yeah. Especially not a Waxahachie concert, I don't feel. I feel like you could get, like, crazy in your feels, maybe, but...
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, though, I would say a concert, a Waxahachie concert, I wouldn't rely on being the quickest group of people to react to something. Pretty chill group. Like, just people that are, like, it's... She goes up and down the age brackets is what I learned. And I think that's also a virtue of the Salt Shed in general.
Yes.
Like being kind of like in a grown up playground is their vibe.
Yeah.
But in like we're cool, but also look at this old building.
Yeah. It's like a grungy area that like scares off some of the yuppies, maybe.
I don't know.
But not really.
Like
but not really.
All sorts of people. But I definitely wouldn't necessarily be like, this would be a really quick group to react. You know, maybe because it was 420, but also maybe just in general. A lot of laid back folks just are like, I like the twang. Whatever. And we're all like, yeah, dude, the twang's good.
Love it.
So that's
Love
my
to
experience.
Love to hear it. Yeah, I feel like Salt Shed has quickly risen the ranks in as far as like favorite venues to see live music in the city.
Yeah. It sounds really, really good if you're in Chicago and there's a show that you might want to see that's at Salt Shed, like definitely good.
Do it.
Go do it.
Do it.
It'll be good.
Real quick, I'm gonna force us to talk about it. This is why we restarted. Have you listened to the Tortured Poets Department? We have to talk about it. It's the biggest release of the week.
Okay, now this is like, have you watched The Lord of the Rings kind of situation,
sure.
right?
Yes. We're
in the sense of, did you do extended version or is it the anthology or the album? Is it the same? Is it different? I've listened to an amount of it. I won't say I've listened to 2 hours and 19 minutes. Is that the runtime?
Something like that, yeah.
It didn't earn that amount of time for me. Like
Correct.
It just, like, that's just the problem with it. It has a lot of the sounds I like, but again, and I've said this on the podcast before. I've said it in real life a million times. I would prefer if Jack Antonoff stopped doing stuff for a bit with all of the major pop stars. Specifically, like, keep doing Bleachers, whatever. Like, do other things. Maybe, like, produce different music that isn't female pop.
Yeah.
Something like, just like, I want him to stop doing this because this album could not run more together in my brain, where I literally was like, wait, is this still the same song? And then I'd look at it and I'm like, to be honest, I don't know at this point. And I've just been sitting here listening to it.
And the answer is yes.
And then but then it's like, yeah, no, it's like been 10 seconds.
Yeah. It's weird because I feel like he does.
It's not that it's bad. That's the problem.
He does some more interesting production on Lana stuff, I feel.
But everything gets tilted towards what he's interested in at the moment.
It leans to his signature.
Yeah,
I think
I'd
say it is bad. I'd say the mixes are not great. I'd say the highs are kind of distorted in some places where it's trying to be lush. It felt like a rushed album for sure. And I don't know how it could be anything but that, considering that this was recorded in the middle and during her biggest
tour.
year in her career.
Yeah, and I think more
on top of re-releases.
The thing about this album where I'm like, is it even something that is something I can even critically actually discuss? Like, or
that's fair. That's
has
a good
Taylor
point, yeah.
Swift in this like extremely successful year, right? Like basically the most successful year of music of any person ever. Like legitimately.
It's kind of a victory lap. It's kind of a victory lap.
Like this is a victory lap album, but this is also, it's like, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks until like 10 of these become demonstrably worse, because it's still feeding the Swiftie faithful. And they're like, some of the people that I know that love Taylor Swift were like, I'm crying listening to this stuff.
No. That
I've heard this from people that have seen the words that people have posted on things.
Yeah, I know. This is, look, at this point, and this, we're not gonna hammer in on Taylor Swift or anything right now. At this point, I take a Swiftie's opinion on music in general the way I treat a Kanye fan today. The way a Kanye fan today talks about Kanye's music today is how I treat a Taylor Swift, a Swiftie, not any Taylor Swift fan. I think anyone that considers themselves like a proper hardcore Swiftie today.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't take your opinion seriously, and you know what? You don't have to take mine seriously either. That's the beauty of it all. I think it's just like, you're crying. I'm like, no. I listen to this pretty intently because Lily's a Swiftie. And I read all the lyrics. I'm like, you guys, this is not as deep as you say it is. And if it's hitting notes for you, cool. Who am I to take away any of that? But it's like, it's really not that. It's super surface level.
I think it's very, that's like, it's like, I've never totally bought into how intricate her lyrics are. Like, I've always thought they're pretty straightforward, but this one is like, it's like, no, this is just straight up the text. It's not subtext. And I think the thing that's it's like, it's almost like, you know, the Marvel movie situation where it's like, she is literally like on the timeline of like a blockbuster, you know, where it's like sequel, like that's how she hits as a blockbuster. And it's like, oh, I made the biggest movie ever. Oh, and now I'm making a sequel to that, and that's still really good, but maybe not. I wonder if it's like the saturation point is happening where if I'm Taylor Swift, I'm like, I'm just gonna like duck out straight up for like 2 full years and then give you all enough time to like be excited and then do something big. But then like just A, to get a break because seriously too much going on. B, because like I would like to just have her be involved in less stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's a lot of her, and I will defend 1989 for the rest of my life as one of the best pop albums of the twos thus far.
Yeah. I still stand with that.
Yeah, like I really, it's not that I don't like Taylor Swift. I'm just like, seriously, y'all, like, please don't show up at the NBA Finals. Like, but you can, and also it's fine.
And you will,
and that's cool. And there will be like 5 seconds of cutaway, but really, I'm just like, just because like, no one, just have fun.
Yeah. So there it is. Speaking of music, and we're gonna get to other topics today because we have plenty to talk about.
But let's go right into music.
Let's stick with the music because it was a big weekend. Music wise, it was a big weekend. So I finally got Spencer to listen to some quote unquote diss tracks, which he is more than enthused to continue to talk about. But it sounds like he caught up on some stuff even from the Kendrick verse from a month ago now. So I was like, yeah, man, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, none of this is like that serious. It's all kind of just for shits and giggles. But he listened to Drake drop basically back to back responses to Kendrick's verse. Unlike that. And then we had an additional one, which less fun, I'd say, we kind of have to talk about it for, I think, for diss track perspective more so than anything else, than the substance of this Chris Brown diss track against Quavo. That's really the biggest reason why I wanted to bring that one up. And then we'll talk about Fallout, the second half of the season. I finally finished it as well.
Good job.
Really, I'm very high on it. The second season, second half of this, I was loving. I was loving basically every moment of it. So I'm excited to talk about that a little bit.
Nice. Okay, so Danny, these diss tracks, all right?
Yeah.
Because you tasked me, you're like, you just really get into them. And guess what, Danny? I read multiple articles about.
Oh, you're reading articles.
I even read articles about previous beefs that Drake has had.
Oh, boy.
And I will say, after my listens, multiple of the push-ups and Taylor Made Freestyle.
Yeah.
And consuming all of these articles and listening to First Person Shooter and listening to the initial whatever, the first Kendrick thing, because I think Kendrick initially started this whole
this wave
foray kind of thing. Conclusion. Drake's really, really lame in most of it all of the time, and how he talks about stuff publicly sometimes. Like he's so just.
He's a cornball. He's a cornball.
He's just a cornball. He's just such a like weird cornball dad. And I don't understand why he's putting himself in these situations to get absolutely rocked. Like going after Pusha T for being fake. And I'm like, I don't even care. Like this whole thing that Drake seems to focus on is if people are being fake about being gangsters. That was his whole beef with Pusha T.
Yeah.
Occasion, like some of the lyrics he was bringing to Kendrick is that. Ultimately, Drake is just a really annoying person to read up on. Because like whenever all of the poll quotes, I'm just like, you really said that? Like you really said that? Like Drake did like a 2-hour-long interview after an album release. And like in the interview, he was just like, oh yeah, Pusha T totally, yeah, he beat me on that whole diss stuff. Like I'm 0-1 in competitive rap music, I guess. And it's like, it's kind of corny and funny, but I'm like,
oh, okay. Man, that's hilarious.
Ultimately, I just didn't like learning more about Drake is really my conclusion of all of this. I could have done with less. Could have done with less learning. Bad at diss tracks. I yield the floor.
I wouldn't say he's bad per se. I think the level of this Drake.
Oh wait, no, sorry. He's not bad at diss tracks. He doesn't know what dissing is. He doesn't know how to make fun of someone.
I don't know. I thought some of the stuff was kind of funny.
No, some of it's kind of funny. This is a diss track. This isn't a joke track. This isn't like an early Lil Dicky professional rapper. Though I will say it's Lil Dicky's flow from professional rapper.
Whoa, hey.
Like there's a couple moments I'm like, this is just how Lil Dicky raps. Also, was Lil Dicky stealing from Drake? Probably.
Yeah. I think we need to reestablish what a diss track is, because I think it's different from what you and I remember in the early 2000s, even into the 90s, where versus what's happening right now with Kendrick and Drake. These are, I'd say at most you can call this a spar. This is like musical sparring, and it's not, there's like really no stakes. What are the stakes here for either of them? Internet clout with their fans? So none. So no stakes at all whatsoever. Even like the 50 Cent and like Kanye pseudo beef.
The one, yeah. That was
of like, hey, I'll retire if your album beats me. Even that had more stakes, and that really wasn't that much of a beefy. They just like, they didn't like each other in interviews and said stuff about
like,
each other.
I'm more cool.
Yeah. So diss tracks they don't hold the same weights or level of severity that they once did in the hip hop landscape. And I would say probably for the better.
Yeah, there's
because
been less like upper echelon rap murders.
yeah. I was
guess.
like, hey, let's not forget that all this is used to result in murders and death. So that part I don't want to necessarily over glorify. But that said, these barely register as this is for me. This is more for the entertainment quality of what music is in the first place in general. And I think if hip hop holds on to a little bit of that without like some of the violent leanings that diss tracks in the past have had associated with them, I'm okay with that. I think that I will take that trade off if it means that like some of these bars and some of these jabs are going to be less intense as a result. I'm good with that. I'm good with that because then we see Chris Brown, who is a person that is bad and sucks, and I don't like having to bring it up. Same thing with Quavo. Straight up saying like, yeah, it should have been you that got shot instead of Offset and died. Like straight up calling him out by name. Straight up saying like, no, I not outright saying like I slept with Saweetie while you were dating her, but like basically he says as much.
I will say just on the topic of Chris Brown sucks. Just before we go into it,
yeah.
So and Quavo, their diss tracks boil down to, I'm better at beating women than you.
Yeah,
like it's insane that they're both calling out. Yeah, we both beat women. Because I didn't listen to the Quavo one because I could barely get through the Chris Brown. He's such a terrible person.
I know.
I will say it felt more like an old school diss track.
It was because it was. Look, he sucks, but this was actually a diss track. This was like where is this coming from? This one feels like ooh. Besides this, that is just like as comparison points. I'm like not going to talk about this because this one looks like it's going to go somewhere not great. So all of that to contextualize what Kendrick said, unlike that, barely inflammatory. What Drake has now responded with back to back with, barely inflammatory as well. But it's fun and it's funny to hear some of this stuff. And then for Drake to be like brush aside and like do the AI stuff with Tupac in particular, and even Snoop Dogg, I think that's potentially ignites maybe unintended consequences in the musical landscape because you have outside of Taylor Swift, maybe the other biggest artist in the world. Just basically adopting AI for this, even though it was completely a troll track. It was 100% him trolling Kendrick at that point because he released it a week after Push-Ups, which he had released as a leak the weekend before, and it wasn't like a proper release. It was really weird to roll out of this.
Yeah,
Drake loves his internet clout, though, is the thing.
I mean,
he loves his internet clout, and he's chronically online. He is chronically online.
Yes, and I think the thing that makes it so interesting now is because of the onlineness of beef, where it was like it would be easy to like basically not see an East Coast rapper if you were a West Coast rapper. Pretty easy to not have that be a constant thing. But it is, I think the use of AI in this song, I don't understand necessarily why. Like, I don't understand the intent of what Drake is trying to say with it, except, if I take these two California greats and have me rap on a track dissing Kendrick, that would make him feel bad because he loves California, he loves Compton, he loves like that.
Well, Kendrick had that recording of Tupac in Mr. Morale that he did get the blessing of Tupac's mother.
That was like a cut up interview where he just changed questions. That was more like what I would call a compositional piece of art.
And this is because
that is a style of art where you cut things up like that.
Yeah.
Create a different meaning.
It is. That's where the Drake fans are like, oh, you're calling that art, but this is pushing the boundary. And I'm like, you damn well know it's not the same. And then I had personally totally forgotten. Kendrick did the whole deep fake stuff with the Heart Part 5.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I think it's a little bit of a jab at that too, of like, hey, when you do this, it's called art. Which I do think the execution I don't love, but if that's what he's actually going for, okay, I kind of see where you're maybe just trying to get under his skin a little bit. And then the Tupac thing, some of the lyrics in there is like, talk about liking young women. I'm like, I think you're trying to get ahead of this by saying like, yeah, grooming allegations, whatever. I'm like, I don't think that's how this works, man. These are more than just unsubstantiated.
You know what? I was actually, as I was looking up some of the beefs, and it's not completely uncommon for someone to let a little bit of what you think you're going to get hit back with go to try to see if you can soften it, but also it can blow up in your face. It seems to go both ways.
Yeah,
some people do it. It usually, in my opinion, isn't the person that's going to end up winning it. Like, you know, like unless he really reckoned with it, and he won't because you can't.
Right.
But yeah, it's the thing that I took away from it is that this AI voice stuff sounded pretty good in the sense of, I was like, this
it was kind of scary. It was kind of scary.
It doesn't trip me out like some of the reading stuff does. Like when you like try to get some AI voice to read something, like that usually has like an uncanny valley to it, a little bit more. But I think obviously also it's like he's not using a free tool from the internet. He's probably and then it's like, all right, let's like smooth this out, make sure it stays on beat correctly. Like there's, you know, probably insane tools he's using to get it to sound
of production.
Still wrong a little bit, but pretty. I was like, yeah, this is I don't know if there was a bunch of Tupac lyrics discovered and it was 100% verified it was Tupac and they like fed it into that, I'd be like, okay, I don't know. That'd be interesting.
We're getting into morally
like,
gray round.
I get it.
I get it. No, I get it.
And then and Tupac had a note on those lyrics saying, hey, when AI gets to the point where I'm dead and you could potentially use these lyrics because everyone loves my lyrics because I am Tupac, one of the best lyricists ever, and I am also a tortured poet.
Oh, zing!
He definitely was.
Well done.
Please, like, do it, and it's fine. So if he that's the note he leaves on top of his lyrics, then that would be fun.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it would be bad. And that's the conundrum is, you know, when someone like Drake is the one to do this, like, or like if Taylor Swift came out and did this.
Imagine if Taylor Swift did this. It's
like the president and the queen and the president of music are doing AI stuff. It's like, oh,
it's over.
So like
it's over.
It's
here. It's over. Yeah.
Cool. Now, the thing is it also Drake saying, look at me, I'm ghostwriting for the tone of these rappers?
It could also be that. I also think it could be hitting that potentially a little bit.
Do you think it hits that, though, is what I'm asking? Because I thought a couple moments of the Tupac had like a similar Tupaciness to how the words sounded. I don't think they were. It was decent imitations of both flows.
I think he wrote those verses with the perspective of like, I'm going to do this like a Tupac would have done it or like Snoop would have done it. And I think that's why they sound like pretty convincing, I'd say, or relatively convincing. They still have a little bit of like, you know, I don't know what they have to call it, like uncanny valley for the eyes, but for the ear instead.
Yeah,
there's like a tinge of that.
Is there a term for it? Because it is a very specific feeling.
If there isn't, I'm sure there will be soon. Because
let's make one. Let's
make what should we call it?
Okay, so wait, what's uncanny valley
for visual?
Is for visual. So that doesn't have anything to do with visuals other than there's a valley. Let's say yucky ear.
Earmuck.
I like that. I would say that's 100,000 times better than what I did. And that's brainstorming, baby. Earmuck.
I just took yucky and changed the letter.
Boom, 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 boom. Improv. Yeah. So ear
Earmuck.
yuck, ear muck, ear
Yeah,
muck.
earmuck.
That's an ear muck.
There's like a little bit of earmuck in there where it's like a little off, but I think he does hit on that a little bit. Look, I'm a verified Drake hater. Like,
and you got yourself over here another certified, qualified, certified. I have the plaque. It's on my fridge.
Yeah,
Drake
again,
hater, and I went to the school of not listening to any of his music unless I have to.
with all look, and talking about Taylor Swift fans, being like Kanye fans, also like Drake fans. God, being a fan of like the biggest artists, you just have to commit to like love every single thing about them, and they can do no wrong. It's really annoying.
It's almost as if like the way that we tribalize every single facet of our lives bleeds into how we treat each other as people. No, they're separate. They're separate.
They're separate. They're totally separate. They're totally separate.
That's not.
Look,
No. Stop thinking it.
I think it's why I do think it's wild that all of this is coming from a single verse feature on a track that wasn't even Kendrick's.
Yeah, it's an overcompensation
for sure, 100%. That said, I don't hate these tracks. I thought like I don't think it's the last Drake is going to respond with. I think he's waiting for a Kendrick response, which at this point Kendrick has to respond in the next week or two. And if it's true that that as he alluded in Taylor Made Freestyle, that Kendrick had something for this weekend but pushed it off because of the Taylor Swift release, I'm like, that's kind of interesting. But also, Drake, you're also on record saying I will push my releases for Taylor Swift because she's the queen. That's verbatim a quote from Drake.
Yeah, and also it's like the problem is we need, and this is I'm going to give notes here to this diss because I'm going to call this discombobulated.
Whoa, yeah, right? Fun.
So that's the sequence we're in right now. We're in the discombobulated sequence. So I'm going to start over here with Drake. You know, we've been going pretty hard on you, Drake. And I want to say it's warranted. That's the first thing I want to say. We should go hard on you because you're annoying. But it would be good if you found the through line that you want to go with on why you don't like Kendrick Lamar. Because right now, it's muddy at best. At best, it's muddy. I don't think it's you think you're a better rapper than him and that maybe he's a ghost written rapper, or he's too much the artist, so your stuff is better because you're not as like annoying about art, or he's too commercial and he's got a small penis. Shoes, which aren't related.
No, not at all.
So just pick a lane, go harder at it, because that's too many things, and none of them are like that strong, you know. Like, then you're just kind of jumping around. And you're like, oh yeah, you're like moving for a Taylor Swift song, and you're doing like verses for Maroon 5. It's like Drake. That's like you can't go there with anybody. You'll do whatever for money. That's your thing.
Hotline Bling exists.
Yeah, like your thing is I'm gonna do whatever's the most popular thing possible right now
to make
so I can make the most money possible right now.
And literally, like his last 3 drops are basically that.
So okay, but really, I gotta go back. I gotta go over to Kendrick. And
fair, yeah, good point. Yeah, fair.
We were going hard on Drake.
Yeah. No, and
so Kendrick, there's a lot less to work on, and that's only because there's a lot less content. Yes. I'm gonna say if you're gonna start a diss battle, I'm gonna need you to see you try a little more in having them be longer than one verse, because right now it's one verse, and that is honestly a lot of it. I was like, this could be about anybody. This could be about anybody. This isn't necessarily. So and it's not even solely about Drake, because it's also about J. Cole.
Right.
Which is also the weird part of this whole thing. Is like, I'm like, I don't even know how much of it was about Drake. Like, I felt like, you know, like
most of it was. But you're right.
I would say, like, you just are really lacking in the sense of length. But also, I would say it was fun because you did a lot of your little weird voice stuff where he's being real, like, squeaky.
Yeah.
And this is, me and Danny have been saying this for, I would say, years since Good Kid, Mad City. Let's just put all of your anger into making just an album of bangers.
Yep.
And you can be really mean on them. That would be cool. And like long, that's fine. But like hard, loud,
you can
stuff. Like really,
you could trim most of the, which is a wild thing I'm about to say. You can trim most of the artsy stuff and just go hard.
Just go bars, and more bars. But then or just a song, because at this point, Drake's just kind of winning by volume, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I feel like some of his hardest stuff is like Family Ties, you know, like on the Baby Keem one. I'm like, that's a banger. That's a bad banger.
Yeah.
More of that. Yeah, I think I need to hear Kendrick like straight up say the word Drake or Aubrey in this next track. Like, just let's stop dancing around. Stop dancing around. Just, if you have something to say, just say
Kendrick, you know which one to use. I'm not gonna say it, but you know which one to use if you're doing a diss track.
Wheelchair Jimmy.
Which one isn't what he publicly goes by? Maybe use that one, because that probably there's a reason for that.
Wheelchair Jimmy, dude. From
like,
Degrassi.
dude. Just okay. Actually, rewind. Okay, so Kendrick Lamar, I got one thing to say to you.
Oh boy, here we go.
You need to watch Degrassi Next Generation, because you're gonna get so much stuff to talk about. If you're making a diss track right now, Kendrick, if you're making one right now, stop. Go watch it. It's like 4 to 7 to 9 seasons, like 24 episodes. Basically, you had to watch it every day after school for like 6 years to get the full story. But just watch that, and then only write your diss track based on that. Just based on the Degrassi character. And don't talk about Drake at all. Just make fun of that character. And I'm pretty sure that'll work.
Yeah.
Imagine. Like the episode where Drake is getting physical therapy, but he's paralyzed, and he's been real annoyed because his wiener wasn't working. And then he gets a boner, and then the nurse is like, "Woo?" But it's like an after school special, so like it's like really uncomfortable.
I personally like where he breaks up with the girl and he's like, "What do you want me?" She's like, "What do you want me to do? Walk away?" And then he goes, looks at her dead in the eye in his wheelchair, goes, "If I could, I would."
Honestly, that is a really good line, and I would say
I do it myself. He says something like
Degrassi, Drake, really maybe the only Drake that I enjoy.
His absolute most theater kid is when you liked him the most. That's funny. Yeah, so there you go. It's, you know, it's all like, these aren't that serious. If anyone's like, what's the score? I'm like, it's barely a draw. Like I would struggle to say, call this like a 1-1 each.
I would say
because I don't know if either of them have done enough to like a win.
Drake has to release, or not Drake. Kendrick has to release a direct response for this to even be an ongoing battle.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, there's nothing.
Yeah, it's done. But then it's like at that point, then like why say anything on that verse?
Why even start?
Yeah, Kendrick. So like Kendrick does have to. He has to.
Yeah.
All right, so that's there. It's fun for me, entertaining, makes for funny hip hop moments. And
what if Kendrick's like putting on his like investigator cap, and he's like going through like financial records and like social media logs and like location data, and he's like, I'm gonna figure it out. Where were you, creepy Drake?
The term nuclear has gone around a little too much.
Is he just doing a ton of research?
And I'm like, no, unless a bar is about to come out that could realistically like jeopardize either their careers, stop using the word nuclear. Who cares? They're both going to be fine, I'm pretty sure, regardless of what each other say in the next coming months. Spencer, this episode is brought to you by no one.
Ooh, damn! I thought for a second I was like, man, we've been doing really good. Nope.
Soon. Buy hats or shirts from Into the AM. Links are still in the bio, the dmgt.com/links. Or donate to your local.
No. I was going to say, or we could say we're sponsored by Vault-Tec because we got to talk about Fallout.
Hey, we are sponsored by Vault-Tec. Good job. I have a Vault Boy right there. Sorry, this is only for YouTube videos. Sorry, YouTube peeps. Sorry, everyone else.
There it is.
I finished Fallout Season 1 on Amazon. The final 4 episodes. And first thing I got to say is, I wasn't thrilled that this was an 8-episode season when I started the show.
Okay.
Perfect amount of episodes. The pacing was just right. Look at what happens when you get like some proper writers that understand the world lore of a thing that you're trying to adapt and just deliver on characters.
Yeah.
And you deliver all of that world lore through the characters.
Yeah,
it was great.
And then just taking a thing and just trying to make it the thing it is.
Yeah.
I think that is also a great type of adaptation. Like, I feel like when we were getting early video game adaptations, I kind of like early, I mean like Tomb Raider time, like not early, but like when the idea of the modern video game adaptation started to take hold, where it was like, oh, this game's really popular, let's make it a quick movie.
Just drop the IP, just
drop it as an IP purely. Drop it as a movie. I think or try to make it more fit into the genre of the medium of film. Right. Because you go from like Lara Croft being a Tomb Raider where you're really controlling the narrative of the story and you feel involved, to it just being a standard action movie, or like same thing with Uncharted, where it just really kind of becomes a standard action movie. I think with Fallout, because it's like that longer series, but not too long, kind of gives it more time to feel like a video game. Yeah. I'd say it's one of the first adaptations or pieces of anything that's not a video game that feels like a video game, and that's not like a derogatory thing to say about it. Yeah. Where it's like, I didn't like this movie because it felt too video gamey or something. It's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, whatever. It's kind of more for the fans. This one felt video gamey, but like in a good way. Yeah, I think it makes you feel like you're playing a video game a little bit, or like because I think, they do a good job with like travel. Yeah. Yes. And like kind of changing locations, revisiting locations with the different characters that we're following, because we're following, it's really 3 protagonists, but it's like a pseudo 4th with the brother. That storyline I thought was really interesting. It all worked really well. I will say, the more I thought about it, because I sent you this text message the other day, and I will say this is not an original idea. I did see a TikTok. I forgot what their handle was. I meant to write that down. I apologize. Where someone said like, yeah, this is basically the Wizard of Oz. And I was like, oh, this season was basically the Wizard of Oz. I don't hate that comparison there. You got Dorothy. We're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in the vault. You got, the sort of man behind the curtain, which ended up being her father, and Vault-Tec in general, and then the little brain thing, which I thought was like really weird and fun. Yeah. And then like and then like how it all tied together with like the ghoul, and like he was there in the beginning. I was like, this is how they're tying it all together. I'd say maybe the slight weakest part of it was the Brotherhood of Steel stuff. They kind of like it's kind of just like there. Although his character I thought was fine.
But for a season one, I think it worked really well. It very much like hit the paces of like, and I'm thinking specifically Fallout 4, where, and a quick synopsis here, slight spoilers or just heavy spoilers for all of it. You come out of the vault, someone took your infant son, killed your wife, and you see it in the cryo space or whatever, and then you wake up. You basically, the entire game is predicated on like finding your son. You find him. Turns out that happened like 80 years ago. So now he's like an old man, and he's the one that's like manipulating like like synths or our artificial androids, like coming up to Earth, because that's how humanity's gonna survive, by putting our brains elsewhere. So kind of doing the thing that the show did a little bit. So it's like kind of follows those beats of like, we're following this thing, and we finally got there, but it's a little bit of a rabbit's foot situation where it's like you got your wish, but you lose your identity, or like everything changed.
Wait, no,
like,
monkey's paw.
Monkey's paw, right? Monkey's
Rabbit
paw.
foot's the lucky one.
Yes, my bad. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think weirdly a lot of sci-fi is kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Like there's so many sci-fi stories feel there's always a person behind the thing. And I think it's a good comparison because I think that's also why the Wizard of Oz is such a great movie, because you have the feeling of going on a journey. Yeah. Like that's, I'm not putting any of these in the same category, but also like Lord of the Rings, like one of the reasons I think those movies endure is because those movies make you feel like you're moving through space, right?
Yeah,
like, that's what's so cool about them. And this one, I don't think necessarily had like the grand lushness of like a Lord of the Rings.
No,
but it did still have like a lot of scenes of just like movement, people walking, people needing to do things. I think it just has a very good moment to moment. There's the next thing I have to do.
Yeah.
So it felt snappy. And yeah, 8's the right amount because I think 10 would have been too long. It's either for me, I want you to go 8 or go like 16 and give me just like
a bunch of little stories and stuff.
Something. Yeah. Like I think 10 to 12 is where shows seem to be getting in trouble, in my opinion.
That's fair.
And
that's
like
fair.
the idea where I'm trying to be a prestige show or a show that isn't supposed to be 24 episodes.
Yeah. Excited to see where Shogun goes tonight. I'm gonna go watch it after we're recording.
That's what I'm doing.
The last episode was so good.
I hope they show that gun.
Yeah, for real.
Talk about a Chekhov's gun. I would say Shogun's gun. Though I will say they did show the gun recently.
Yeah. It's all right. How would you rank this as like a TV show standalone in general? Like if you had to 5-star rating, where do you rate it?
I would say like a good 3.75 to 4. I thought it was super strong, like great first season. Like I don't know if I'm not really judging it against other video game adaptations, but more just like judging it on
on its own.
Yeah,
merits.
like I wouldn't say I did not feel this like the wow factor that I felt for like the first season of The Boys.
Right.
Like, but it's still like really, I had a great time and I'm very excited. If it can, as long as it goes on, I'm probably going to watch it if the quality maintains.
Yeah, they just renewed season 2 like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, there you
go. Got renewed for a season 2. Yeah, I think I'm landing right in between a 3. You could convince me. You could make a case for a solid 4. I had very few complaints with it. Had a really good time with it. I think once I start thinking about like some of the best season 1s of television history, it's like that's where it's like I don't think this is just. It's just kind of unfair almost to like hold anything, try to have anything enter that realm of TV. Mm-hmm. But that's like not discrediting this at all in the slightest. Like I enjoyed this and like The Last of Us's adaptation, season 1.
Oh, yeah.
In different degrees and different levels, but almost equally, like in the sense of like the entertainment value that I got out of them. Whereas like I'm excited to watch the next episode. Man, I continue to wish that this one went on and I know you said you wouldn't have maybe continued. But I wish, or maybe Lily said that. I wish this was a weekly drop. I think the show is strong enough for a weekly drop.
I think it definitely could have been a fun weekly one. I think the interesting thing is, like, part of why you want to do a weekly drop is because you want to watch it with friends weekly.
Yeah.
You know how easy it would have been to just be like, hey, everybody we know, just don't watch Fallout. Let's watch it together. And everybody would have been like, oh, okay, what is it? Most of the people would have said that.
That's, probably.
We could have done it.
Yeah, we could have done it.
Because it's not like everybody had played Last of Us.
Right.
It just happened to be a weekly show.
I also think the HBO name also carries a little bit of a heavier heft in as far as like, hey, watch this with us.
Yeah. I mean, Amazon, like Prime Television, like Prime Video produced TV, it's only going to take like 30 more years of doing really, really good content and almost no missteps. And then they would have to sell to a bad company, which I don't know who that would be, but like, and then we'll have the same feelings about Amazon Prime.
100%. Nice. Good job, Spencer. That was,
they're almost
no undertones to that at all.
I have no idea what undertones are even. I honestly don't know.
Discovery buying out Max and changing it to Max. I don't know. Whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
I got too close to the sun there, baby. Whatever.
Everyone's flying too close to the sun.
Yeah.
When it comes to streamers, all of the streamers are flying far too close to the sun. Did you see Netflix was like, hey, we're just gonna stop telling you about shit. Shut up.
Yep.
like yep. Literally, like, as a company, they're like, I think we should announce this. We're not talking about it anymore. Everyone's like, what, Netflix? We're not talking about it anymore. What are you saying? We're not going to say how many people we have. Okay. All right. Okay. Like, why are you so mad about it?
Oh,
Netflix?
my goodness.
It's like, okay, Jesus.
Relax, y'all.
Relax.
You want to talk about this Hades tech demo real quick, or save it? That's all right. That's fine. Hey, thanks for listening. Bye.